The secret of getting ahead is getting started. Mark Twain. Welcome everyone. Let us begin the event with a prayer song.
गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपवस्तवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती दीनामवित्रयवतु गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
I welcome Ms. Anubala, Head, Department of Information Systems Management, to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning to all the participants for the national seminar. On behalf of IQAC, it's my honor to welcome you all for this national level seminar on National Education Policy 2020 and its relevance to teachers' education, organized in academic collaboration with NAAC. First, I extend my greetings to our management, the directors and trustees of Shri Krishna Swami College for Women, our foundation pillars, to all the activities that we carry out. I'm extremely privileged to welcome today's chief guest, Dr. D. Uttara, Vice Principal, MOP Vaishnav College for Women, Chennai, for accepting our invite in her busy schedule. I extend my warm greetings to our Dean, Dr. R. Revati, and our Principal, Dr. Anita Rajendran, to stand with us in all our commitments. Next, I'm honored to welcome our distinguished resource persons, Dr. Yogesh Velankar, Professor, School of Sustainable Development, Amrita Vishwavidyapeetham, Kerala, and Mr. Dr. Mendes Jacob, Professor and Director, Marian College, Kuttikanam, and CEO of IPSR Solution Limited. And our third resource person, Dr. V. Jayashree Priyadarshini, Assistant Professor of Biological Science, NKT National College of Education, who are going to enlighten us with their knowledge about the theme National Education Policy. Most importantly, I welcome all the participants for joining us and hope you would find the relevancy of the seminar with your teaching methodology. Last but not the least, I welcome all my colleagues. Thank you to all the participants.
Thank you, ma'am. I request our Honorable Principal, Dr. Anita Rajendran, to deliver the presidential address.
A very good morning. On behalf of our management, Thiru M.A.K. Balkrishnan, Thiru K.B.K. Rajmohan, Thiru K.B. Arun, Thiru K.B. Krish Anand, staff and students, I extend a very, very warm welcome to our chief guest, Dr. Uttara, a dear friend of mine, who's a vice principal of MOP Vaishnav College for Women, Chennai, and to other keynote speakers, Dr. Yogesh Velankar, Amrita Vidyapeeth, Kerala, Dr. Mendes Jacob, Professor Director, Marian College, CEO, IPSR Solution Limited India, and Valen Technology Limited UK, Dr. Jayashree Priyadarshini, Assistant Professor, Biological Science, NKT National College of Education for Women, Chennai, for this virtual national seminar on National Education Policy 2020 and its relevance to teachers' education. This policy aims to transform India's education system by 2030 by providing high-quality education to all and thereby making India a global knowledge superpower. thank you all the dignitaries, and wish you all good luck to all the participants participating in this seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I now invite Dr. Kirti, Head, Department of MA HRM, to introduce the theme of the seminar.
Good morning and greetings to all. The NEP 2020 is the first education policy of the 21st century, and it replaces the 34-year-old National Policy on Education 1986. Built on the foundation pillar of access, quality, affordability, and accountability, this policy is aligned to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The policy aims to transform India into a vibrant knowledge society and global knowledge superpower by making both school and college education more holistic, flexible, multidisciplinary, suited to the 21st century needs, and aims to bring about the unique capabilities of each student. Key areas of discussion today are quality sustenance in higher education, opportunities and challenges for faculty, students and institutions, and equitable use of technology. Quality sustenance in higher education can be accomplished through regulatory framework that ensures integrity, transparency, and resource efficiency of the education system through audit and public disclosure, while encouraging innovation and out-of-the-box thinking ideas through autonomy, good governance, and empowerment. The policy of 2020 aims to address various gaps in the education system by proposing sweeping changes to benefit all stakeholders, faculty, students, and institutions. One of the highlights of NEP 2020 is dedicated unit for digital and online learning, which facilitates equitable use of technology through capacity building and promoting online education.
Thank you, ma'am. I now invite Ms. Rupavati, Head, Department of BCom Corporate Secretaryship, to introduce the chief guest, Dr. Uttara Dandapani.
Good morning all. I feel honored to introduce the guest for the day, Dr. Uttara D, Vice Principal, MOP Vaishnav College, Chennai. Dr. Uttara D is an Associate Professor and Head, PG Department of Commerce, specializes in accounting and finance. She has been coordinating the activities of all the commerce courses in the college. As the chairperson of the Board of Studies of the Department of Commerce, she has been responsible for the updation of the syllabus and bringing in subject of industry relevance into the curriculum. She has been the co-convener of the national and international seminars organized by the department and college and has largely contributed to the successful conduct of the same from the ideation to the execution. She was appointed as the coordinator of the internal quality assurance cell of the college for 3 years. She has been serving as the chairperson in many of the functional committees of the college. She is currently serving as the vice principal and has been very actively involved in the decision-making process at the policy level in the college. Dr. Uttara D regularly shares her expertise by giving guest lectures and associating herself as a resource person for many FDPs and seminars. She is the university nominee in the Board of Studies of many city colleges. She is currently serving on the staff selection panel of the University of Madras. With 27 years of experience, Dr. Uttara D has carried forward her academic and administrative experience of having worked in reputed college in the early part of her career. She completed a doctoral program in Satyabama University. She has been recognized to be the research guide by the University of Madras in the Department of Commerce MOP Vaishnav. She has 6 research scholars under her supervision currently, specializing in finance and marketing related topics. We are very happy to have you with us today, ma'am. I once again welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request Dr. Uttara Dandapani to address the gathering.
A very good morning to one and all. Happy day. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for having invited me to this wonderful virtual seminar on the National Education Policy. A huge thanks to the principal, Dr. Anita Rajendran, who is a very dear friend of mine. And we have carried a lot of experiences with us in our journey together. Thank you, Dr. Anita. A huge thanks to the management and the faculty for having invited me for the this wonderful session that you're going to have the whole day. You're having great speakers, and I'm sure it's going to be a great learning experience. And what we can learn out of the National Education Policy is something that is very, very important. As all of you know, the National Education Policy is the first inclusive, participatory, and a holistic approach that aims at reforming the existing educational structure. This new education policy 2020 takes into consideration different fields like experiences, empirical research, stakeholder feedback, and lessons from the best practices. It is definitely 100% a progressive shift, and if implemented in its true vision, this new education structure can definitely bring India at par with the leading countries of the world. The policy as such insists on several parameters like multidisciplinary graduate programs, multiple entry and exit options, graded autonomy, and let's say development of institutional quality through the institutional development plans. It is time for us to understand that institutional quality is the key to attaining excellence. It is, Elon Musk says it is easier to send a man to the moon than to change the education system. Okay. He, of course, jocularly mentioned it, but it is 100% true that it is very, very difficult to change the educational system. And it is not something that can be definitely not done overnight. This is because with over 45,000 higher educational institutions, India has the world's largest higher education system, owing to a massive expansion in the higher education sector, which has seen almost a four-fold rise since 2001. However, the sector continues to face challenges such as insufficient funding, lower graduate employability, poor teaching standards, poor governance, and many complex regulatory processes, which have definitely hindered the growth of the educational sector. India's demographic trend indicates that it will soon overtake China as the world's most populous country, and demand for higher education will obviously follow suit in the coming years. We cannot definitely deny that by 2025, India will have the world's largest population enrolling for higher education, and that by 2030, it will be one of the world's youngest countries with the largest population pursuing higher education. This is like a Damocles sword hanging on the necks of the policy makers, because on the one hand, we are going to have a very young population, which will obviously be pursuing a higher education. This is going to create a lot of importance to the education sector, and are we geared up for that is the question. According to the All India Survey of Higher Education, ASHE, India's gross enrollment ratio, that is the GER, is 27.1%, which is calculated obviously with the age group of 18 to 23 years. This is significantly lower than the global average of 36.7%. There is also a big gap, along with the fact that there is a less GER. There is also a big gap between education obtained and the skills required in employment, primarily due to the lack of quality in higher education institutions, as well as a lack of skill development in the curriculum. In addition to this, the greatest challenge the higher education institutions face today is a shortage of the instructors. It is believed that 30 to 40% of the faculty positions in HEIs are unfilled, primarily due to the non-availability of well-qualified faculty. As administrators of higher education institutions, we all face this problem when we are trying to hire suitable faculty to fill in the positions. We always have this problem of finding well-qualified, suitable faculty, which is a big hindrance. As a result, the student-teacher ratio becomes skewed and unbalanced. The scarcity of well-qualified faculty adds to the pressure of providing high quality instruction, resulting in gaps in the learning process. So what do we as teachers and administrators of higher education institutions do to ensure that the essence of NEP is well received and implemented? Of course, many states are still in the process of either accepting it or implementing it. The Tamil Nadu government is still not, okay with the acceptance of the NEP. They are in the process of developing their own system. So whether it is going to be NEP or no NEP, what we should focus is what we have in our hands instead. That is, focus on the teaching learning process, which should be made more effective for all students to achieve defined learning outcomes and graduate attributes that have a long-term, significant and positive impact on their thinking, conduct and attitude. Because why I am saying this is something that we have in our hands. This is something that is controllable by we as faculty. Forget about the national implementation of the NEP, whether it's going to be implemented, to what extent it is going to be implemented by the states. All those things are not in our hands. Let's be practical and let's see what we as faculty can do to change the prevailing pedagogical practices. We teachers must be trained in technology-enabled services and if provided with the institutional support, I'm sure teachers can definitely contribute to the NEP and imbibe the very essence of NEP. It is also critical that HEIs use the best teaching learning practices from around the world. We as teachers should not be confined to what we know or what we are aware in the given situation. We need to definitely look outside and imbibe what other countries are doing. We need to promote effective global pedagogies and assessment practices. Continuing professional development for faculty is something that is very, very important, and developing technology-enabled learning ecosystems that are appropriate for the current and future needs are all important factors in ensuring best teaching learning processes are passed on to the students. This is something that we need to really, really focus on, because as teachers, are we prepared? Are we ready to take up the challenges which are going to be thrown open by the NEP is what I would like to focus upon, because as I told you, the regulatory aspects is definitely not our forte. Okay, that is something that the government has to look into. That is something that the regulatory authorities have to look into. But we as individual teachers, how can we contribute to this is going to be my focus. It should be the focus of our discussions. We have been actually overemphasizing on external assessment of students with insufficient formative assessments and continuous assessments, which is something which we all felt the need for during the COVID-19 crisis, because we were focusing so much on external assessment of the students, and suddenly when that external assessment mechanism was not functioning, then we found that if only we had continuously evaluated our students, it would have been such a big boon during that particular period, right? So learning assessment must become an assessment for learning and not for evaluation itself. When learning opportunities are created for students with clear goals and teachers are involved in every step in the process of developing these assessment mechanisms, learning will definitely occur, which I feel is very, very important. Individuals' innate qualities must be assessed based on their interests, skills, personalities, competencies, and capability for achieving excellence. This I feel is very, very important, because that way we will be able to curate specific assessment mechanisms for the students. In most higher educational institutions, pedagogical practices still primarily focus on rote learning and lecture methods, which are almost archaic. But many higher education institutions have not moved out of that, with very little opportunity for participatory and collaborative learning that promotes critical thinking, analysis, and application, which is very important for students to become rounded individuals. Syllabi and course structures remain still rigid and narrow, and there is a lack of holistic approach to knowledge and skill acquisition, which today is multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and cross-disciplinary. in today's world, monodisciplinary dominance in knowledge system is being supplanted by cross-disciplinary programs that have broadened intellectual frameworks for the understanding of nature and societies. Universities are expected to play a key role in social transformation, breaking the stranglehold of single disciplinary and intellectual framework that has dominated since the 19th century. This is not something new to us. The ancient Indian educational system have from time immemorial emphasized on holistic development of students by introducing them to higher order cognitive skills, critical thinking, challenging prejudices, preparing them to earn a living, and developing a value system to produce humans with higher intelligence and ethics. As I told you, this is not something new to us. From our forefathers, ancestors have always been talking about the 64 colors. Today we have the Gardner's multiple intelligences, which focuses on different intelligences which needs to be developed by the students. This is not something new to us. In Tamil, we call it the Aya Kalaigal 64, right? Okay, so which has been focusing on developing the multiple intelligences of these students. Today we talk so much about the Gardner's multiple intelligences, focusing on the visuals, the spatial intelligences, linguistic and verbal intelligences, the logical and the mathematical intelligences, the bodily or the kinesthetic intelligences, the musical intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence, naturalistic intelligence, and existing intelligence. But this is what actually is the very essence of the 64 colors that our forefathers have been propagating over the years. So somewhere down the line, we lost it. Somewhere down the line, we forgot about our own ancient educational system, which was considered to be the best in the world. It is time that we revive it. It is time that we bring it back into our educational system. Why are we talking so much about multiple intelligences? We have seen examples of how many entrepreneurs, many successful leaders across the world have leveraged their multiple intelligences so that they can effectively create businesses, they can effectively create ecosystems which help others develop. Say, for instance, Steve Jobs is, as many of you may be knowing, Steve Jobs, as all of us know, is one of the, his case is one of the best cases for understanding about how a leader should function, how an entrepreneur should function, etc. Steve Jobs is actually a college dropout. He did not complete his college education. He did not complete his university education because he felt that he did not learn much from the university education, and he wanted to actually develop multiple areas, multiple intelligences. His focus was developing many areas of intelligences. This actually had helped him to develop Apple. Today, you know that Apple is one of the most leading brands in the country, in the world across. He himself has said that he was able to develop all this only by focusing on developing his multiple intelligences. Like, say, for instance, just take a simple example. He had developed a lot of interest in calligraphy, for that matter, okay? And iPhone has a distinctive advantage, or a distinctive, let's say, a strategic differentiator when compared to other mobile phones, because it includes cursive writing, it includes stylish writing, which is not the case in any other in any other brand, for that matter. No other mobile phone has this concept of stylish writing, which is an embedded it is an embedded feature in an iPhone, which he feels that he has developed only because of his knowledge on calligraphy. So many such instances that can be given. He has developed, he is somebody who believes in minimalistic living. So this concept of minimalistic living that he had learned across the years he has put that into the development of an iPhone, which is a very simple, user-friendly ecosystem that he has developed in the iPhone. So this only goes to show that multiple intelligences are not just bookish thing that we are talking. It is something that needs to be developed in the students to develop leaders and entrepreneurs in the future. There is definitely a compelling case for moving away from a teacher-centric teaching paradigm towards a student-centric learning paradigm that is more experience-based and capable of igniting students' imagination. Now, gone are the days when we say that students should not be Googling, students should not be using WhatsApp. Internet facilities, social media such as Google, WhatsApp must be used in regular teaching learning to shift from a centralized mechanism to a learner-centric system benefiting both the students as well as the teachers. The focus should be on blended learning, which includes a mix of flipped and online classroom activities. The implementation of this strategy will definitely necessitate ongoing teacher training and capacity building. So that is where my focus should, I feel that all our focuses should be. We should get trained to meet the situation. Adoption of emerging teaching approaches such as higher order thinking, outcome-based learning, and blended learning can help create effective pedagogies to improve the learning experiences and address problems faced by multilingual students in accordance with their learning style and language. The learning management system must be made student-centric. Videos, film clips, TV clips, animations, LMS, Moodle, and so many other tools can be used to improve this. Open source toolkits can be used to seamlessly integrate technology and education. We can improve, supplement, reinvent, and transform the teaching learning process using technology. This is definitely in our hands. We can definitely contribute to this to a great extent. In Indian HEIs, the opportunity for induction training for newly hired faculty to initiate professional preparation and continuing professional development of incumbent faculty is very limited. This, I feel, is something that we should definitely focus on, and this is where I feel the focus of NEP should be. As a result, they do not have enough opportunities to improve teaching, research, and scholarship performance. Learning about new fields, new frontiers, applying new pedagogies, instructional delivery models, and technology to enhance learning and to achieve excellence in research and scholarship has become pretty restricted. Teaching is a profession in which teachers' personalities have a direct and telling impact on their students. As a result, proper orientation of the do's and don'ts as well as portfolio management as important components of a teacher's personality should be provided at the time of hiring and during continuing professional development, which is very, very important. One of the most important responsibility of a faculty is to instill in students a constructive mindset and a positive attitude towards the society and environment, as well as to encourage them to think and learn beyond facts. In order to create a sustainable future, it is very critical to develop the instructor's capacity in this area. So as teachers, we need to develop all this. Only then we will be ready to face the 21st century requirements. Because students in the 21st century will need a great deal of flexibility in their teaching learning pedagogies with multiple entry and exit options. Universities would be required to focus on blended approach to teaching and learning, where students would have the freedom to design their own learning path and learn at their own pace, considering the dynamism of the environment and the ever-changing landscape. How ready are we to accept all this and to learn from all this? Higher education, especially after COVID-19, is a completely different ballgame, with students having direct access to numerous online resources and teachers not being expected to just disseminate information. Instead, students would be required to learn about creativity, design thinking in order to be prepared to solve complex problems. How are we going to train our students to face these situations is something that we really need to focus upon. With the dynamism of the environment and the ever-changing academic landscape in mind, universities and higher education institutions should definitely focus on blended education approach that allows students to design their own courses based on their aptitude, need, and desire. Artificial intelligence, robotics, virtual and augmented reality, big data analysis, 3D printing, IoT, blockchain, and so many other modern technological solutions must all be included in the curriculum to make it more robust and more application oriented. Developing knowledge and skilled graduates with a strong value system so that they can contribute to the social, cultural, and economic development of the country while working towards UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals is very, very important. Universities and other higher education institution must prepare students for a technology-enabled, student-centric education paradigm with a strong focus on employability. Another area which I feel is very, very important is research and innovation. As India aspires to progress through sustainable development and become a world leader, it must be at the forefront of knowledge creation, research and innovation. In this mission, India's young demography must be made an effective dividend. We talk so much about the demographic dividend, but how are we going to utilize this demographic dividend? How are we going to do this? I feel this necessitates a three-pronged approach. To begin with, we must, of course, produce high-quality human resources that are comparable to the best in the world, with a thorough understanding of research and innovation methods, as well as critical and out-of-the-box thinking skills. Our teaching pedagogy must focus on developing this out-of-the-box thinking skills of the students. Secondly, there is a pressing need to, let's say, establish a large number of interconnected global excellence centers as drivers of research and innovation with strong ties to society as well as economy. Thirdly, most importantly, there is a need to shift the focus of research and innovation funding from fundamental to applied areas. And as researchers, as faculty who need to definitely focus on research, I feel our research areas must be more on application oriented rather than just theoretical, so that we can focus on the national priorities. Because I feel if India wants to progress through sustainable development while taking advantage of its demographic dividend, it needs to invest in research and innovation to become a leader in knowledge creation. I feel the higher education institutions must incorporate the structure and functions of innovation and ideation cells into their research policies in order to create an ecosystem for research and innovation. There's so much talk of inaugurating and having incubation centers in every institution. This is very, very important for developing the skills of the students to become entrepreneurs, to become innovators, which is very, very important. The concept of undergraduate research in groups should be introduced in Indian universities and colleges as they serve as a feeder line for a higher level research. So gone are the days when we are talking about only research only at the post-graduation level or only at the, let's say, the PhD level. Research must be incorporated into the pedagogy, into the assessment mechanisms, even at the undergraduate level. At a small level, we should focus on developing the research skills of the students at the undergraduate level itself. And innovation centers in universities should act as an interface between problem space and solution space. So there is on the one hand problems and on the other hand solutions. So innovation centers should fill that gap between the problem space and the solution space by identifying problems for industry, government and society, presenting them to the faculty and students for research and consultancy, which is a big thing these days. One of the most underrated assets in our country is the human capital. It is time that the country heavily and strategically starts investing in the development of the human capital, which is very, very important. On the one hand, developing the human capital, and on the other hand, the government should definitely focus on creating a pipeline for employment that will be available for the students after they graduate, so that there will be an organic development of education and then the businesses. This I am saying because what happens in our country is that education is growing on one hand, businesses are growing on one hand, but there doesn't seem to be a synergy between the education and the business. We talk so much about the institution and industry interface, the triple I and etc., but it just doesn't seem to be happening because the education sector is growing on one hand in a different vertical, in their own assumption of what is happening. The businesses are expecting something else, but there's no connectivity between these two. That is where the NEP should definitely focus upon, because what we should be doing is assume understand what will happen, let's say 30 years later. What kind of business skills is required 30 years later? And those skills must be slowly incorporated into our education system, so that when the students come out into the world, they will be industry ready, which is very, very important. This will help our students becoming active contributors to the economy. Let's take a small example of a country, a small, a kutti country like Ireland. 40 years earlier, this country, a small country like Ireland, is a very beautiful country. 40 years earlier was in a total crisis situation. They were in a situation of severe unemployment, a lot of political instability, and they were into a deep recession. But that is when the government took the reins and decided that they are going to give a lot of impetus to which sector? The education sector. They decided that education sector needs to be given a robust makeover. Only then they felt that this is going to really be the change maker in the country. So they found that many of their students were moving on to other countries, looking for better opportunities, greener pastures in other country. There was so much of an outflux of students from their country to another country, which was leading to a severe brain drain, which, like in many other countries, like India, also is facing the same situation. But that is when they decided that they're going to take it up and develop their education system, so that they will be able to align the education system with respect to the business requirements and the business needs. So they decided to design and deliver value to the students. They did a thorough market research on what are the skills that will be in demand and which is missing now. Okay, so they decided that they are not going to sell fake dreams to their students, and they are going to really deliver value additions to the students and make them ready for the industry. So this education makeover that they had decided, they had invested severely, they had invested seriously in education system, and today Ireland is one of the most sought after countries. They have brought in they are emigrate. Now today they are facing a situation where those people who had moved to other countries from their country are all returning back to the country. So now they are having a situation of returned immigrants and also a rapid influx of talent from all across the globe. Okay, so I hope sincerely that India will take such case studies of other countries and learn from the global trends and build a conducive business as well as an education ecosystem in our country also, which is very, very important. Given such a situation, it is obviously imperative for higher education institutions to restructure themselves and develop strategies so as to become a global leader. Though flexibility in higher education model through the concept of multiple exits is an important step for reducing the number of dropouts, many would still raise a question about the value of such certifications and diplomas, because it is this Indian psychology, it is the Indian mindset which closely associates job with degrees acquired. Hence, to implement the new system, we first have to dismantle the archaic thinking mechanism of us as teachers that only with a degree can one successfully secure a job, because this is a dangerous paradigm which undermines and discourages other innate talents of an individual. The NEP has brought in the concept of the National Academic Credit Bank, the NACB, which aims to create a repository of credits from various institutions that are easily transferable. This should be promoted. The higher education system will have to be redesigned and rethought to achieve this. I feel key characteristics such as transparency, equity, accountability, and inclusiveness must be practiced by higher education institutions. Higher education institutions should also move towards decentralized governance, having autonomy, accountability, flexibility, effective communication, trust and transparency at various levels of operation. To create efficient, future-ready universities, regulators must act as enablers to contribute to the progress of higher education institutions. Of course, the National Education Policy seeks to establish multidisciplinary institutions for higher education, replacing the single disciplinary ones. The road to attain this goal has been paved with good intentions. So many people have put their minds into it. Policymakers have spent hours and hours of they burnt their midnight oil to develop this education policy. However, it will definitely be a feat to achieve given the limited resources at hand and considering the vastness and the diversity of our country. It remains to be seen how well this is going to be implemented. The mission is definitely aspirational, but the implementation roadmap will decide if this will truly foster an all-inclusive education that makes learners job ready. So let's join hands in this wonderful journey to provide the best to our dear students, because that is what we are here for, and thus create a robust education system by putting ourselves in the fire and get ourselves sufficiently trained, all set and ready to meet the requirements of the ever-changing educational landscape, which is what I would plead to the teachers, that we should be ready to face this situation, to face this challenge that has been thrown upon, because there have been so much of talk saying that our teachers ready for this, are we ready for this, is the NEP going to be a just down the blind alley and things like that. Let's join hands together and show the world that we can make it happen. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity, and good luck to all the faculty who have signed up for this seminar and are willing to put themselves towards the journey of wonderful education that we can provide to our students. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for enlightening us with the fundamental focus of NEP, the innovations in teaching, use of technology, and the importance of blended learning. We are highly motivated to enrich our knowledge to become more efficient faculty. We believe with all this knowledge, our students would become highly competent in the corporate world and develop their keen interest in research and become great leaders. Let us now begin our first session. I invite Dr. Esther Felicia, Head, Department of Mathematics, to introduce the resource person of this session, Dr. Yogesh Velankar.
Good morning all. I feel honored to introduce the resource person for the session 1. Dr. Yogesh Velankar is the Program Director, UNESCO Chair on Experiential Learning for Sustainable Innovation and Development and faculty at Amrita School for Sustainable Development, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, Amritapuri, Kerala. Dr. Yogesh Velankar earned his PhD in Engineering Education from Pure University, USA. He holds MS in Electrical Engineering and MD in Mathematics Education as an Instructional Specialist, India. Dr. Velankar is an All India Council for Technical Education, AICTE empaneled expert on India's National Education Policy 2020. AICTE has also nominated Dr. Velankar as a Markadesh with an aim to mentor and enable technical education institutions to achieve aggregation by National Board of Aggregation and enhance the quality of technical education. Previously, Dr. Velankar has worked in the US
and India in multinational and diverse organizations such as Indian Institute of Technology, Madras and Varanasi, KLE Technologies University, Indo-Universal Collaboration for Engineering Education, Infosys, Caterpillar and others. His industrial experience includes strategic talent management, competency and knowledge management, workplace learning, training, and professional development offerings. Dr. Velangar also has an academic leadership, administration, research teaching, and service experience across various educational levels in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, humanities, social sciences, management, and leadership domains. Dr. Yogesh Velangar has actively provided consultancy, advisory, and mentoring services to various stakeholders in the educational ecosystem at all levels. Dr. Velangar has contributed significantly in capacity building initiatives, enabling institutions in their growth, development, and transformational journey towards becoming world-class. Dr. Velangar has contributed to developing the implementation roadmap for the National Education Policy 2020, and he has also provided the expert consultation on the post-draft of India's fifth Science Technology Innovation Policy 2021, an initiative spearheaded by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. Dr. Yogesh Velangar has been selected by Ministry of Education as a mentor and performance auditor under the third phase of Technical Education Quality Improvement Program, a central sector scheme of Government of India with support from the World Bank. Dr. Velangar has also contributed Pan-India as an expert resource person and consultant for various centers under MOE signature scheme of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching in the UGC Human Resource Development Centers. We are happy to have you, sir. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request Dr. Yogesh Velangar to address the gathering.
Very good morning to each and every one of you. At the outset, I express my sincere gratitude to the management and the organizing team of Sri Krishnaswamy College for Women. It's a great privilege and my pleasure to be here amongst all the esteemed speakers for today, as well as all the distinguished participants who have gathered for this national webinar. I congratulate the institution for organizing such an interactive session, which allows us to deliberate upon various pertinent issues related to the National Education Policy 2020 and the role of faculty members in its implementation. My session today, we will focus on quality sustenance in higher education. So before we even begin talking about quality sustenance, I think we all understand that quality is such a convoluted concept and it has so many different meanings attached to it depending upon who's actually looking at it and with what purpose. So as I get ready to share my screen and start the session, I would also encourage all the participants to perhaps take a minute or two and use the chat window in the platform to write your thoughts about what do you understand by quality education. So perhaps in a sentence or two, in a short phrase, if you would just note down your current thoughts about what is quality education, then we can proceed, right? I'll give everyone a minute or two. You can use the chat window and I request all the participants to express their current ideas about what is quality education in a short phrase or in a sentence or two, right? So I'm looking forward to the responses. Please go ahead. So think through what is quality education, what comes to your mind. I don't need a dictionary definition, just in your own words. Feel free to express in the chat window what is quality education. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir.
Okay. Yes, I can see some responses coming in. As I said, we don't need a very elaborate response at the moment. Just in a few words, few sentences. You know, if you want to express, what do you understand by quality education? I request all participants to note down their responses in the chat window. Yes, I can see a couple of responses coming in. Balkis is saying conceptual in-depth knowledge for the students. Okay. And Jayanti says paving way for employability, improving skill sets and knowledge, and becoming a holistic person. Very well. I believe we have more than 75 plus participants. I request everyone to participate and note down your responses in the chat window. The question is, what do you mean by quality education in your own words? Once again, I strongly encourage all participants to jot down your responses in the chat window. Yes, now we can see several responses coming in. So Kirti says, produce responsible citizens who can lead a balanced life. Very well. Then Malti is talking about education that helps them to acquire basic literacy and numeracy, enjoy learning without fear, feel valued and included irrespective of where they come from. Okay. So Karti says, ensure inclusion and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Let us once again try to recall. The question is, what do we mean by quality education? So let us think about it. You know, what do we understand from it from our own set of experiences? I'm sure, you know, many of you here are faculty members. You yourself have been a student. You have been a teacher in the system. You have been an administrator, and through various perspectives, you have experienced, you know, what is quality or lack thereof. So let us try to articulate our current thoughts in our own words. Yes, we continue to get few more responses. Sudha is talking about appropriate skill development. Sharmila is saying ensuring holistic development of the students, and Senthil says use technology education. Very well. As you can notice, when we start thinking about quality education, many thoughts, you know, keep coming to our mind at the same time. And none of those thoughts, you know, seem to converge on one particular aspect. So we can think about quality as I said, a multi-layered concept which can have, you know, multiple perspectives attached with this. And let us try to unravel what do we mean by quality and what do we understand by quality sustenance, especially in the context of higher education. So allow me to, you know, share my presentation. Thank you everyone who has responded. And let's continue to think about what is quality, what do we mean by quality in the context of higher education, and then we will converge upon a few ideas as to how we can actually sustain this kind of quality in higher education through the rest of this presentation, right? So once again, these are my coordinates. Feel free to stay in touch, and let us begin our discussion today with three dominant perspectives that we can think about when it comes to quality education, right? So the three perspectives, if we think about it, let us begin with the idea of the input to the system. What do I mean by the input to the system? If you think about education as an ecosystem, whether it is school education or higher education, we are thinking about the input is the kind of resources, the kind of infrastructure, the kind of financial provisions that we make. So the kind of enabling factors wherein we build the ecosystem. So we are talking about the input to the system. So quality, as I said, it is multi-layered, and one of the first layers or one of the first perspectives we can think about is what happens as an input to the system. Let's say giving all this necessary quality inputs, you cannot cut corners, let's say in resources or finances or infrastructure. You are worried about, you are concerned about as educational stakeholders to have the best in class or the best quality resources, best quality infrastructure, and well-rounded finances in order to support the education ecosystem. Let's say you provide all these things, right? What happens next? What happens within the system is the second perspective, right? Even if you have this entire framework of the educational ecosystem, you still have to think about the processes used to organize, control, and the delivery of education. So this is also very, very critical, right? The teaching learning process, the assessment and evaluation process, the curriculum, the technology affordances, and the entire gamut of things that goes into putting the operational aspects of education into practice. So it's very essential to maintain quality at all times. So what happens within the system is equally important. But at the end of the day, we as educational stakeholders, whether it is teachers, whether it is society, industry, parents, or the students themselves, we are worried about, we are concerned about the output of the system, which means the products or the results of the educational experience. And this is where there is an increasing emphasis the world over. So irrespective of what is the input, what happens within the system, at the end of the day, even if you have the best input and the best kind of provisions within the system, if the output is not as per the expectations, again, we cannot see or we cannot say that we have a quality educational ecosystem. So we need to ensure that all these interrelated parts of the ecosystem work in tandem, work in cohesion, and there has to be quality mechanisms put in place at each point in time and in each step of the process, so that at the end of the day, we are able to get a quality output from the system. And this is where the world is headed towards, and hence, as you may have all heard by now, the concept of outcome-based education is one of the dominant educational philosophies adopted by many education systems throughout the world. Let us get a glimpse of the foundational concept of what is outcome-based education, which has become popular, as I mentioned, throughout the world, including in our nation. What does outcome-based education mean? As I just mentioned, when we think about the educational ecosystem, we have to think about the outcomes or what is the end game, right? So we have to begin with the end in mind. And how do we do that? In order to do that, we are able to set clear educational goals, which we classify as outcomes, and then we work backwards to design the entire educational process that enables the students to meet those goals. So once you are very clear on what should be the outcome of the system, then and only then you are able to ensure that you have a pathway, you have a framework, you have a system such that it will enable the students to ultimately meet those goals, correct? So this is the basic framework of what outcome-based education is all about. Based on outcome-based educational philosophy, many of our current systems of accreditation are currently based, and let us delve a little deeper into what those are all about. And first, let us talk about the outcome-based educational framework. As you can see, if you start from the left-hand side of this system diagram, you will see industry and professional organizations. Our earlier speaker mentioned about the industry institute interaction and sometimes, the kind of misalignment or the lack of communication between the two. However, if we are able to harness the industry inputs, the inputs from the various stakeholders in the society, then we are able to get all these inputs into our educational system, which actually tells us what the society at large is looking for or what are the expectations of the graduates of our program. If we are able to take this input and feedback and give it to our system, you will see at different levels, whether it is at the course level, at the program level, or the institutional level, we are able to formulate the vision and mission of our institution. We are able to formulate program educational objectives. We are able to formulate student learning outcomes, and these all percolate down to the course level. I think in another session, we have already talked about the details of outcome-based education. As I mentioned, many of the faculty members here may be familiar with the basic concepts of outcome-based education and various accreditation processes. But as you notice here, upon formulating the outcomes, we then move into the course planning and delivery, right? Once we have the end goal in mind, then we move into the educational processes that involves formulating the curriculum, as we call it, the establishing the teaching learning methodologies, and then also thinking about what should be the assessment tools. Once we are able to do all this, it feeds into what we call as the course assessment, program assessment, and institutional assessment. So through these assessment and evaluation mechanisms, which tell us whether we have met our original objectives or not, we can take this input, take this result, and feed it back into the system. As you notice, the improvements, our lessons learned from this kind of approach can be fed back into the system, and if required, a course correction can be done in the spirit of continuous improvement. So as you can see, if we are able to think about what is the output of the system, when we talk about students should be developed in such a manner that they will have a set of body of knowledge, students will be having the kind of values and the morals that we are trying to inculcate. If those are going to be critical features of your educational system, then you have to ensure through a robust mechanism of assessment and evaluation whether those are actually being met or not. And hence, upon realization, upon reflection, you are able to then identify what improvements need to be done in your approach, and it has to be fed back into the feedback loop, and hence you are able to continuously improvise the system. With this kind of a framework in mind, let us now move towards the concept of accreditation. I have mentioned this word a couple of times already, but let us try to understand what it actually means. So, what is accreditation? When we are thinking about quality, accreditation is a process of quality assurance and improvement whereby a program in an approved institution is critically appraised to verify that the institution of the program continues to meet and or exceed the norms and standards prescribed by the stakeholders. As you can see from this kind of a definition, accreditation is nothing but a process of quality assurance of either a program or the institution itself, right? And this is a kind of a recognition which indicates that the program or institution fulfills certain set of minimum standards. Now, who are setting these standards? As you have seen just in the previous slide, These norms and standards are set not only by the regulatory bodies, but they are also at the local level. They are also set by taking the inputs and the feedback from the industry, from the relevant stakeholders, and the educational entities involved in prescribing what should actually happen within the system, right? So, in a sense, accreditation is nothing but a set of quality improvement assurance mechanism which ensures that certain standards, certain guidelines are being met and they are adhered to. But why do we even need accreditation, right? Can we just live without it? What would happen if there is no accreditation? Why are we all discussing about the need for accreditation? Simply put, it has several benefits, and let us talk about some of the important ones. If we are saying that we are going to provide quality education, then accreditation as a process, as a mechanism, will support and advise technical institutions or any kind of institutions for that matter in the maintenance and enhancement of their quality. So, in order for us to do continuous improvement, accreditation and its associated processes will be very helpful. The second important point here is it gives confidence and assurance on quality to various stakeholders, including the students. Just at the start of this presentation, we saw from several of the participants, when we were asked to describe quality in our own words, we came up with various aspects of quality, right? So we want to make sure that when we talk about quality education, that kind of confidence, the assurance can be provided to all the stakeholders in a uniform manner. The other important benefit of accreditation when we think about the educational stakeholders is the government bodies or the entities which are also assured that the institution is providing quality education and is adhering to certain norms and guidelines. It also allows the institution to proclaim that it has voluntarily accepted independent inspection and has satisfied all the requirements for satisfactory operation and maintenance of quality. So it is not just, your own analysis or assessment of quality. You are also subjecting yourself as an institution to peer review. And this process of peer review, this process of expert review is very, very critical in ensuring that certain standards and guidelines are maintained, and that kind of proclamation can be done in an unbiased manner, right? So that is the benefit of why we are talking about accreditation and how it actually helps educational institutions. Moving on, the basic backbone of current accreditation systems is outcome-based. So if you look at this framework, you will notice when we talk about outcome-based education, we are talking about what students should be able to do. And this is encapsulated in the form of graduate attributes. So what should the student be able to do upon graduation from a particular program? In order to be able to do certain things, we have to do something within the system. Remember the three perspectives of the education system we talked about. So what happens within the system? Within the system, we have to think about what is the curriculum. So how to align outcomes with the syllabus. This kind of alignment is going to be very crucial in order to reach our destination. What would be the process of, how do we make the students achieve the outcomes? That would involve your innovations in the teaching and learning process. And very, very important is how do we measure the student's success? How do we know that students are going to be able to do what we say they are going to be able to do? This is achieved by the process of assessment and evaluation. So if you think about it, if we infuse the concept of outcome-based education throughout our educational process, and we ensure that there is proper alignment, proper synchronization between all these different parameters, then and only then we will be able to accomplish what we set out to do, which is ensuring that our students are meeting or exceeding a certain set of attributes, and they are going to be able to develop into well-rounded individuals, right? Now, taking a cue from this kind of a concept, within our nation at the moment, we have two major agencies. Many of you are familiar with National Board of Accreditation, wherein it is tasked with accreditation of programs within institutions. And what are the different criteria? Let's state a particular program is the institutional vision, mission, and the program educational objectives. From there onwards, program outcomes, curriculum, students' performance, faculty contributions, facilities and technical support. As you can notice, academic support units, teaching learning process, governance, institutional support, and financial resources. Finally, whether the institution follows a particular process of continuous improvement in attainment of outcomes is also something that the NBA looks at. If you look at all these different parameters, you will notice that it is a holistic evaluation of various aspects related to quality education. And it's going to be very, very crucial. It's going to be very, very important for an institution, for a particular program. When I say a program, we are talking about, let's say, a Bachelor's of Commerce program. We're talking about a Bachelor's of Engineering program. We are talking about different programs which lead to a particular graduation, right? So it's going to be very crucial for an academic institution when they are looking at various aspects of quality to ensure that each and every point mentioned here is going to have the required support, it's going to have the required provisions, and it's going to have quality mechanisms embedded into the system so that each and every aspect of the student learning experience is well taken care of. If at any given point in time, if there is some kind of disturbance in the system, if there's some kind of misalignment, or if there is lack in one of these areas, then the institution cannot really hope to achieve the best in class quality. But upon continuous reflection, continuous self-evaluation, and continuous peer evaluation, if an institution is able to identify what are the gaps and what are the ways and means to overcome those particular gaps in any of these aspects mentioned here, then and only then I think the institution is on a pathway towards continuous quality improvement. Similarly, at an institutional level, many of you are familiar with the the NAAC, which is the other agency tasked with institutional quality assessments and accreditations. Now, during a NAAC accreditation, these following aspects of quality are evaluated. These following dimensions, as mentioned here, whether it is the curriculum, teaching, learning, the research, consultancy, and extension, infrastructure, learning resources, student support and progression, governance, leadership management, and institutional values and best practices. These are all the indicators of quality that are looked at by the NAAC when they are doing institutional accreditation. Each of these different aspects has further, areas wherein the quality aspects are evaluated. So it's going to be very crucial. For instance, when we talk about curricular aspects. So curricular aspects involve not just, what to teach, but it also involves really how to teach and when to teach. So if we do not have a state-of-the-art curriculum, if we do not have the necessary inputs from the industry and the various stakeholders, then our students are at the mercy of an outdated curriculum, and then they will not be really prepared in this current 21st century world that they will step into, right? If our teaching and learning does not take into account the understanding of how students learn, then we stand a chance that our students are going to be disengaged. Our students are not going to really imbibe the kind of values and the knowledge that we are trying to impart, and hence they will not be very well prepared. So as faculty members, you will have to ensure that your teaching and learning methodologies are in sync with what the student is expecting. And the key phrase here is, are you really moving towards student-centered teaching learning environments? When we talk about student-centered, it is essentially nothing but keeping the students in the center of everything that you are going to plan, that you are going to do, and that you are going to reflect upon. So if you are able to focus, if you are able to structure your teaching learning processes in such a way that it will benefit the students to be able to accomplish those learning outcomes, then and only then you will be able to say that yes, we are trying to accomplish, or we are trying to move towards quality teaching and learning. The next very important part, especially in the context of higher education, it's very critical that we focus on the research, consultancy, and extension of our services. So, for instance, the R&D cell institutions are supposed to, undertake cutting-edge research, and also research that can benefit the society. You must have seen various schemes of the government which are also encouraging academic institutions to extend their support to their neighboring, let's say, villages or areas where there are a lot of social issues that can be resolved through rigorous R&D. So at the end of the day, if we are able to extend our services to the society at large, then that would really bring about the kind of desirable change that we are expecting to see. The next point, when we talk about infrastructure and learning resources, this could mean everything from physical as well as digital resources. In one of the later sessions today, you are going to talk about digital aspects of education, the technology-enabled learning, whether you have the kind of resources which are required for ensuring that kind of equitable learning opportunities for all your stakeholders. Similarly, when we think about student support and progression, it's very important to note that everything and anything which relates to students' emotional and physical well-being comes under this parameter. So not only students need academic support, they also need counseling support, they also need mentoring support, and that is a very, very important area where faculty play a very, very big role. As academic administrators, many of you who are leading departments, who are leading your institution, you know that a leader can kind of make or break an institution. So as academic leaders, the kind of governance, leadership, and management practices, the kind of set of processes that you actually execute, are they really student friendly, are they really employee friendly, is something that you need to reflect upon. And last but not the least, the institutional values and the best practices. This emerges from your institutional vision and mission, and what are some of the things that your institution does which is going to be a distinguishing feature of your own institution which contributes towards quality education. One should be aware of it, and one should also learn from other institutions who are performing well and try to adopt the best practices in your own context. So these are all the different indicators from the perspective of the accreditation agencies. Currently, we have the two agencies, NBA and NAAC. As I mentioned, the NBA, which is looking at the program accreditation, whereas the NAAC looks at the institutional accreditation. And as per the NEP, the proposal is to have a single agency for accreditation called NAAC, which is the National Accreditation Council. So this evolution has been proposed through NEP 2020, and the details are currently being worked out. So with this kind of a central agency, NAAC, there would be perhaps a new set of criteria and a new set of indicators which can do the accreditation for the programs and as well as the institutions. See, one of the proposals is currently being deliberated upon. I think it is emerging out of the NEP 2020 is the concept of binary accreditation. So it's either a yes or a no. As you know, currently NAAC has a graded accreditation system, but the NEP 2020 is proposing for institutions, the accreditation can be just whether the institution is accredited or it is not accredited, right? So that is a binary accreditation which is being proposed. The pros and cons, as I mentioned, are currently being deliberated and the exact mechanisms are being worked out. So that is where the future is moving towards as per the guidelines and the norms proposed in the NEP 2020. But majority of these critical aspects we have just talked about as part of the various quality indicators will in one way or the other be embedded into the accreditation process. Now, if we look at another regulatory body and let's think about these benefits of accreditation before we move on. As I have discussed so far, we have talked about what is accreditation, we have talked about why do we need accreditation, and we have looked at the essential critical features of the major accreditation currently in our country, the systems that are currently prevalent, and let us look at once again the benefits of why we are talking about accreditation. See, this kind of exercise, which can really be very massive, it can be very documentation intensive, helps the institution to know its strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. So when you analyze each and every aspect, you are able to determine what are your strengths and what are the gaps and how you can overcome them. This kind of analysis, when you're going through this process, whether it is through self-evaluation or through your peer review, will help institutions to adopt and to innovate in the modern teaching learning methods. As I mentioned, as faculty members, you are supposed to create student-centered teaching learning environments and hence give your institutions a new sense of direction and identity. This can be furthered by providing society with reliable information that yes, why would students take admission into your institution? If they are convinced that they are going to receive quality education, if you are able to provide society with that kind of know-how, that kind of reliable information, that yes, our institution preserves the hallmarks of quality, our institution adheres to certain standards and norms, and our institution is going to provide the best kind of student-centered teaching learning process, and our institution is going to ensure the holistic development of the students. If you are able to convey this information to the society in a reliable manner, and that reliability will come in with a process of accreditation, then that is a very big benefit that you can derive out of this entire accreditation cycle, right? And let's not forget that through this kind of peer review, peer interactions, and learning from each other's best practices can also promote a lot of this inter- and intra-institutional collaborations and interactions. So we get to know other stakeholders, we are going to be able to interact with experts, and we are going to be learning from different quarters, and let the good ideas come in from wherever. It doesn't matter, as long as you're able to adapt and execute in your own context with the relevant local constraints, keeping those constraints in mind and trying to overcome them in your own unique situation. These kind of interactions will go a long way to promote quality education. Now, recently you may be familiar, UGC has also come up with their quality mandate. Let's look at what are the important aspects of quality as promoted by UGC. Let's look at them one by one. We'll start on the right hand side. If you notice the icon in green, it says Diksharam, Student Induction Program. right? So this is an idea, this is a concept wherein we are saying that whenever students come into our institutions at the inaugural stage itself, if we are able to structure an experience for the students to familiarize them with our ecosystem, to give them a sense of belonging, and to inculcate in them our values and the ethos of our educational system through this induction program, then I think it can give the student the right set of mindset to further their educational journey within our institution. So this is going to be a very, very crucial aspect, that as you welcome the students into the institutions at the start of their journey itself, if you are able to give them this holistic experience as to what higher education is all about, what are the kinds of things they can expect to learn, and what are the kind of skills they can develop within your own institution, and giving them that sense of, as I said, belongingness is going to be very crucial. If you are able to couple your academic journey with developing the life skills, Jivan Kaushal as it is being termed here. So life skills for students throughout their academic years in your institution, if you are able to inculcate those, then that's going to be very crucial. We talk about assessment and evaluation. So the next point is evaluation reforms. See, what gets tested gets improved, right? So evaluation, if we want to move away from rote memorization, then our examinations, our the kind of assessments that we conduct, we used to conduct, let's say, only the end of semester kind of evaluations. But if we can focus more on continuous evaluation, continuous assessment, then it will give us more meaningful insights into the students' learning progression, and we can take corrective actions rather than waiting till the very end, right, when it's probably too late. So evaluation reforms one can think about. Let me give you one example. The concept of, especially in the realm of assessment and evaluation, many a times we are concerned about cheating or, kind of malpractices used by students, right? We are concerned whether students are going to copy the responses from somebody else and not really write the response on their own. Now, if you turn this situation around, which we think about evaluation reforms, if for a particular learning outcomes, if you're trying to, really measure their higher order thinking skills, then you might, as an educator, think about giving your students, let's say, an open book exam. Now, when we talk about the concept of an open book exam, at this point in time, our concerns of copying or cheating, they completely take on a different meaning. Because the entire reform that we are trying to bring in order to ensure that the student has met let's say, a higher order thinking skill, we are giving them this kind of aligned evaluation pattern of an open book exam. And as the name suggests, the student might be, you might set some guidelines that the student can refer to any study material and write that kind of examination question, because those answers will not be, the questions, the way they are going to be framed are not going to be very straightforward, right? They are going to really test the students' critical thinking and a lot of other skill sets, which we can call as the higher order thinking skills. The next quality mandate is the alumni network. Having a very strong alumni network really, enables the kind of peer learning or the well-wishers of the institutions. When you graduate your students, and if they're able to give back to their institution, that kind of bonding, that kind of relationship with the alumni can really bring in a lot of difference to the development of the institution. Now, just as we talked about student induction program, it's very important. The next point here talks about faculty induction program and ARPIT, right? So this ARPIT stands for Annual Refresher Program in Teaching, which is again equivalent to the UGC refresher courses, but offered on the Swayam MOOC platform. So faculty induction within the first few years of joining, there is very structured approach to develop new faculty members, orient them to the ways and means of promoting quality education, especially in the higher education context. So all new faculty members should enroll for the faculty induction program and make the existing faculty members who are well experienced, who have been in the system for a long time, can continuously update their knowledge and skills by not only the UGC refresher programs, which are typically conducted by the UGC HRTC centers, but now you can also go to the MOOC platform, and under the ARPIT scheme, you can enroll for the MOOC courses, and they will be counted towards your continuous professional development, right? The next important point is, when we talk about quality, yes, faculty are encouraged by various schemes which relate to promotion of research, innovation and development, the CARE, UGC CARE or the STRIDE kind of schemes, and there are several others where faculty can make use of those provisions to ensure that they are actually promoting research and development and innovation along with the teaching and learning process, right? The hand-holding that can occur. The next point is mentoring of non-accredited institutions. So this scheme is wherein some of the well-performing institutions, those who have already accomplished certain levels of quality as evidenced by the accreditation process, they can become mentors to other institutions who are going through this journey and can benefit from the best practices of this kind of mentor-mentee relationship, right? So that is the next quality mandate. Moving on, the ICT-based tools, including online teaching and learning, blended learning, teachers need to familiarize themselves with many of these skill sets. Many of our students are already familiar with and very fluent in digital technologies. And if we are able to use this various kind of ICT-based tools, then definitely we can ensure quality education even in the online learning world, right? The next point is social and industry connect. Once again, strengthening the industry connect, very crucial. The industry is moving along. There are lots of emerging areas which we can integrate, and this point connects to the next point, the regular curriculum revision. So the LOCF is nothing but the learning outcome based curriculum framework. The learning outcome based curricular framework can take inputs from industry and other stakeholders at regular periods of time, and in the spirit of continuous updation, if we are able to bring in the latest trends in a particular domain, then we can ensure that our students are ready upon graduation, right? So definitely these are the various aspects that even UGC is thinking about very deeply and is encouraging higher education institutions to inculcate in their operational aspects, right? Similarly, I want to give you another example which is being promoted by AICTE. AICTE, as you know, is the apex body for technical education in our nation. All India Council for Technical Education. They have recently launched a project called Student Learning Assessment. In short, they're calling it as the PARAK scheme. Now, what is this AICTE SLA? It is designed to measure the benchmark levels and gains in academic and higher order thinking skills of students and faculties to understand the various factors that affect skill development across technical institutions in India. So what does this mean? The mission is, once students and faculty members, if we are able to self-evaluate the higher order thinking skills and the domain skills, then we can design the necessary interventions for creating more effective education system, right? So this scheme is recently launched for across the nation, and let me just show you some more details about this. It talks about the assessment cycle, right? So the idea is to, let's say, define or redefine the learning objectives, then do the selection or the design of learning activities. Then you actually implement, you gather evidence, you analyze and evaluate, identify the gaps, make decisions, and those decisions can once again feed back into continuous redefinition of your learning objectives if required. So this system, if you visit the website which I have mentioned here, you can see more details about it, right? And many of your students, you can make use of it. Perhaps many of the institutions have already adopted this. If not, you can go to this website, sign up for it and take a self-assessment. And you can take this kind of assessment several times. There is no limit as such. And you will be able to gauge the knowledge and the skills which can give you a kind of a report which will help you to evaluate what are the gaps, and you can take corrective measures to fill those gaps, right? So these are various mechanisms wherein we can ensure quality education. We can do a system of reflection, we can do a system of self-analysis, and institutions can use these kind of indicators to actually design or redesign their educational processes, right? Now, having looked at what our national agencies are doing, let's think globally about how the global bodies are thinking about quality education, right? So moving on, we are all aware that the UN Sustainable Development Goals 2030, out of the 17 goals, goal number 4 talks about quality education. And quality education in this particular goal means that ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. So if you notice, it's one of the most important, and this particular goal of quality education, which has been talked about even at the global level of the Sustainable Development Goals, when we are talking about inclusive and equitable quality education, and when we talk about promotion of lifelong learning, we really have to think whether our current systems and the systems that we are designing for the future, are they really meeting these kind of objectives? What are going to be the targets? What are going to be the indicators? And what is going to be the pathway to ensure that we are going to be reaching this kind of a goal, let's say by 2030, right? So it is not too far away. I think collectively we have to put in all our efforts and ensure that we meet this kind of a goal, right? If you think about it, and once again, let's start to deconstruct what is quality education from the perspective of global bodies. So if you think about the UNESCO's framework on educational quality, it has 5 dimensions, right? So let's look at them one by one. I will give everyone a minute to read through this 5 dimensions, and then we can move on, right? So the first one is talking about learner characteristics. The second one is the context. The third dimension is the enabling inputs. Then comes the teaching and learning. And finally, we are going to be talking about the outcomes. So in each and every aspect of this particular dimension, we can have a set of indicators. When we think about quality, we think about learner characteristics, what kind of background knowledge and skills, or what kind of demographics our students are coming in from. The context talks about, the various socio-cultural and religious factors, the kind of parental support, the kind of public resources for education. The enabling inputs is, we have talked about it earlier, the kind of what happens within the system, right? And the teaching and learning, yes, again, faculty members are very deeply involved in this, the kind of teaching methods, the class size, the assessment, and so on. And finally, when we think about educational quality, we are talking about the outcomes, whether it is academic or whether they are life skills. Those are going to be very, very crucial. Now, if we focus our attention back to the NEP 2020, right? We have looked at what the global landscape thinks about quality education. And let's refocus our attention to what our NEP 2020 talks about, right? So it has a set of fundamental principles, as we can term it, and it is based on this idea of holistic development, multidisciplinarity, no hard separation between the various academic disciplines or domains, conceptual understanding rather than just rote memorization, the focus on creativity and critical thinking, promotion of multilingualism, formative assessments, which is nothing but ongoing assessments throughout the learning process, extensive use of technology, synergy in curriculum, right from early childhood education, school education, higher education, adult education, and beyond. Right? So the synergy in curriculum is also another important aspect which is mentioned in the NEP. And finally, the access to quality education must be considered a basic right. That is what the NEP 2020 proposes. And when we talk about quality education, it should be universal. It should not really be limited to certain set of section of the society, and not only just for a privileged few, right? So that is the basic premise of the NEP 2020. Now, if you really think about it a little bit further, how can teachers, how can faculty members, what is the role of teachers in promoting quality learning environments? It comes down to, many factors, but if you try to distill it down, here are some of the important ones, right? The process actually begins from, what is the curriculum? As I mentioned, you have to consider, you have to take into account what you are teaching, how you are teaching, when you are going to teach certain things, What are the various domains of knowledge which are going to be crucial, which are going to be relevant, and which are going to be meaningful in the near term and the long term future. Those elements and those recent developments in a particular field have to be incorporated into the curriculum, and students have to be given exposure to the new tools and new techniques and the emerging trends through this curriculum, which is going to be updated or which should be updated periodically, right? Then comes the pedagogical aspects, which implies the variety of teaching learning processes that you are going to incorporate. As I mentioned, the focus is now upon generation of student-centered teaching learning environments. So all the decisions that you take, whether it is identifying the study material, whether it is the kind of delivery mechanisms, whether it is the kind of resources that you're going to use, and the kind of the tools that you're going to deploy, whether they are physical tools or digital tools, and the kind of the way we call it, right, structuring the content in certain ways, depending upon the needs of the learners in our classroom. So the kind of prior knowledge, taking into account the context of that situation and then moving ahead from there. All these are aspects related to pedagogy which can promote quality learning. The very important aspect of assessments, if you are able to infuse and incorporate and make it a practice that continuous assessments become part and parcel of your teaching learning process, not just assessment of learning, but assessment for learning, then again, this is going to be very, very critical feature of ensuring that quality learning and students giving, getting the meaningful feedback from faculty members will really assist in their learning journey and develop their understanding and take them to the next level. So this kind of assessment and the associated feedback, which will help the students to learn from where the errors are made and really help develop conceptual understanding rather than just, rote memorization, which has been detrimental to quality education in our recent education systems. Very, very crucial and sometimes neglected aspect of quality is student support mechanisms. As I mentioned, through various student activity clubs, through various mentoring provisions, through various counseling provisions, through connection with alumni networks, and giving students various opportunities to connect with the industry, to connect with internships, to really work on hands-on projects. The kind of support system which will develop the student holistically is going to be extremely important when you are going to think about quality learning environments. So, as I mentioned, there are going to be several aspects of quality, but as faculty members, as academic leaders and administrators, what we can do at our own level and in our own context is definitely these 4 ideas, which are of course interrelated, whether it is curriculum, pedagogy, continuous assessments, or meaningful student support. If you are able to combine these things, then I think quality learning environments will be a way of life in your academic institutions, and all your stakeholders will be convinced that yes, your academic institution is providing all the necessary aspects of quality and the best practices that go along with it, right? Finally, I leave you with a quote from the NEP 2020. I'll give you a minute to read about it, how NEP 2020 is envisioning quality education. Look at it, right? It is very comprehensively mentioned. We are talking about development of good, thoughtful, well-rounded and creative individuals, right? We want to develop character, ethical and constitutional values, intellectual curiosity, scientific temper, creativity, spirit of service, and 21st century capabilities in a variety of domains. It goes on to say a quality higher education must enable personal accomplishment and enlightenment, constructive public engagement, and productive contribution to the society. And ultimately, it must prepare students for more meaningful and satisfying lives and work roles and enable economic independence. So the NEP is very clear on what it means by quality higher education, how it envisions our academic institutions to perform, and hence develop our students in very meaningful ways. And finally, if we think about sustenance, we have to ensure, we have to understand, and we have to take the accountability and the responsibility, all of us, educational stakeholders. We have to understand that it's the responsibility of everyone in order to sustain quality. It's an ongoing and continuous process. And earlier in our presentation today, we have discussed about accreditation. So it is not just limiting yourself to the requirements of the accreditation process, but actually going above and beyond it. I think with these ideas, we are able to ensure that we are providing equitable and quality education through our academic institutions, and our students will benefit in the long run, because at the end of the day, all that we are doing is for the welfare and the well-being of our students. Not only should they come out as academically strong, but they should come out of our academic institutions as very responsible citizens of the nation and the world at large. With these words, once again, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the entire organizing team and the management of Sri Krishnaswamy College for Women. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to interact with the participants today and be part of your national webinar on this very important theme of NEP 2020 and its relevance to teacher education. I hope faculty members and the participants gathered here will benefit from the deliberations throughout the rest of the day. And if you have any further questions, comments, or would like to get in touch with me at any point, you are most welcome. Once again, thank you to each and every one of you. Have a good day, and I'll see you sometime soon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request the participants to post their questions.
Yes, I welcome any questions or comments from the participants. Yes. Yes, so we are getting one question, what are the challenges in sustaining quality in higher education, right? As I expressed in my final slide, if we are sustaining quality, if we think about sustenance, right, over a long period of time, we have to understand it's the responsibility of each and every one of us. So it cannot be done in isolation. And the idea is to really collaborate. The idea is to synergize and synchronize our efforts with each other. We cannot be, pushing and pulling in different directions. So if we are able to get our stakeholders aligned and working towards a common goal, I think we will be able to make a lot of progress in sustaining quality. I hope that answers your question to some extent. Moving on, we have another question. The question is, in many institutions, marks are a demarcation for higher education eligibility. But yes, exams in affiliated college depends on university culture and quality. Exactly. See, so the idea as proposed by NEP 2020 is for all our institutions which are affiliated, the trajectory of affiliated institutions needs to be in the direction of autonomy. So within the next 10 to 15 years, institutions have to strive for gaining autonomy, which will enable them to do a lot of innovations in their teaching, learning, and assessment and evaluation processes. And that is how you can actually bring about the change that you are aspiring to. So your first order of business, the first step towards that journey is making progress towards autonomy. Yes, very good questions coming in. What is the most important factor that reflects the quality? See, very simply put, right? Let's drill it down to the very bare basics, right? If you think about what is the outcome of the academic experience, if you want a student to have, lots of knowledge and skills, let's say when we talk about cognitive thinking, or we talk about knowledge and skills in various domain areas in a specific domain. And then we talk about attitude, right? We should also think about the character building of that student. If those are the two critical aspects that what you're trying to do, those are the two outcomes. One is the academic know-how, and the second one is the morals, values, and the character of the student. If a student is able to exhibit their technical proficiency, and when I say technical, it doesn't limit itself to engineering and technology domains. When I say proficiency in academic knowledge, it can apply to any kind of knowledge, whether it is the areas of arts, social studies, or humanities, or commerce and related areas. So yes, if a student is able to exhibit the kind of professional skills and knowledge in a particular domain, and the student is also well-rounded, quite matured in their ethical values and the kind of morals that you're trying to impart to them, and the kind of character they show under any kind of circumstances, that will be evident through, as we call as the life skills. We want responsible citizens. We don't want students who are just academically strong, but their values are not in the right place, right? So if you're able to accomplish this, to some extent, you can definitely say that yes, I have made a difference as a teacher, I have made a difference as an institution, and my student who's graduating from my institution exhibits both the academic proficiency as well as the character excellence that we expect them to, then you may have achieved the kind of quality you are seeking to accomplish. Very well. Any other final questions? Yes. So one question is coming in, how far do you think OBE is applicable for Indian institutions? So, see, it is very much irrespective of any kind of constraints. OBE is nothing but talking about outcome-based and student-centered teaching learning environments. So irrespective of any kind of constraints, at the end of the day, we are all there for student-centered teaching and learning, right? So in order to accomplish that, there is nothing wrong with having a goal in mind and ensuring that we are going to accomplish that goals with a series of coordinated steps and processes which will get us there, and subjecting ourselves to continuous evaluation, reflection, and course correction. There is nothing wrong with it. Yes, so definitely we can take the essential ingredients of OBE, whether it is affiliated, whether it is autonomous institutions, whether it is a private university, a government entity, it doesn't matter. We are concerned, if you break it down into its bare basics, we have to really think about what is OBE or what is accreditation, or what are all these systems asking us to do. They're asking us to deliver a good student-centered teaching, learning, and quality learning environment. And as I've talked about earlier in the presentation, if you think about a curriculum, if you think about innovations in the pedagogy, if you think about the continuous assessments, and you think about the student support systems, then of course, if you are able to bring all these aspects together, you can enhance the quality. Yes. One more interesting question is coming in. What are the aspects we have to implement in the library according to NEP? See, library traditionally has been, the place, the entity within academic institutions which was, in charge of all the knowledge that existed within that institution. But in recent times, with the advent of the technological developments, with the advent of the internet and the democratization of and the spread of digital know-how, the library also has to evolve along with the times. So definitely the library can reinvent itself, in various aspects, in providing the, access to the students, to the faculty, in terms of not only the physical resources, but giving them access to a lot of digital resources and creating spaces where a lot of knowledge exchange and generation of new ideas can take place. So definitely library continues to play a very, very important role, but one has to just reimagine what is going to be that role and what is going to be the structure, what is going to be the operational aspects, and how do you move it along with the times, taking into account the the variety of ICT tools and techniques that can really enhance the library offerings as well, right? So it is not, I would say, sometimes unfortunately many of our libraries are currently seeing a lot of I would term it that it's become somewhat unused, not really used to its fullest potential. But in order to really ensure that they stay relevant, library services has to keep evolving and reinvent themselves. So thank you very much for all the questions, and once again I encourage all the participants to continue to think about various aspects of quality and continue to think about your role in quality sustenance in your own academic institutions. Thank you very much, and perhaps we are getting ready for the next session now. So over to the organizing team. Thank you.
Thanks for patiently answering our questions, sir. Thanks for enlightening us on the concept of OBE and the steps to attain effective outcomes. The OBE framework threw light on how industries and professional organizations can help us in planning our course delivery. With the effective implementation of such a framework, we can definitely enhance the approach for efficient delivery of our courses. We also could comprehend the importance of outcome-based accreditation, the criteria of National Board of Accreditation and NAAC. The information you gave us on quality mandates such as student induction program, life skills for students, faculty induction program, quality research, mentoring, and use of ICT-based tools will highly help all the institutions in reforming their evaluation pattern, which paves way for effective teaching learning process. Thanks for pointing out valuable websites that help us in our self-assessment to meet the accreditation criteria. Your focus on the fundamental principles of NEP 2020 will definitely help the teaching community to develop the quality of education through effective pedagogy. Thank you once again, sir. We now move on to our second session. I invite Ms. Porkodi, Head, Department of BBA, to introduce the resource person of this session, Dr. Mendes Jacob.
Good morning. It gives me immense pleasure to start this session by heartily welcoming each one of you present here. I would like to start this address with a quote. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Benjamin Franklin. No matter what we do, where we are, knowledge is something that can never be taken from us. I feel that it is of the utmost importance for an individual to focus on nurturing his or her inner abilities to yield a great outcome. I am profoundly honored to introduce and welcome our chief guest, Dr. Mendes Jacob, who has graced us with his presence this fine day. Dr. Mendes Jacob, MSc, MPhil, PhD, MID, the CEO of IPSR Solutions Limited and Valent Technologies, UK, is an academician and an entrepreneur with 30 plus years of experience. He is also the professor and director of MCA program at Marian College, Puttikanam, and the former director of School of Applicable Mathematics, MG University. He acted as chairman and member of many academic bodies constituted by the university. He is also a member of academic administrative bodies of other autonomous colleges, engineering colleges, and business schools. In addition to his capacity as director, MCA program, he is also the chairman, Board of Studies of MCA course at Marian College. He received the Best Entrepreneur Award from Chief Minister of Kerala and IT Education Excellence Award from the Defence Minister of India. IPSR Solutions Limited, under the leadership of Dr. Mendes Jacob, has bagged Samman Patra Award from Ministry of Finance, Government of India, and Best Education Technology Solution Provider 2019 Award from Integrated Chambers of Commerce and Industry. The company also received 37 awards, both national and international, for the Best Training Partner from Red Hat, the leaders in open source. He is a PhD in Operations Research and has to his credit a number of national and international publications. He is a research guide of Lincoln University, Malaysia. He holds the International Certification of Directorship awarded by Institute of Directors and is eligible for becoming the director of any company globally. He has served as resource person for many national and international seminars and conferences in mathematics, management, and computer applications. He has organized, conducted, and served as resource person for a number of faculty development programs, including UGC-sponsored refresher courses. His areas of interest include national education policy, outcome-based education, and accreditation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I now invite Dr. Mendes Jacob to address the gathering.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful introduction. And thank you, the entire fraternity of Sri Krishna Swami College for Women in Chennai for conducting this event and inviting me as a resource person. And this is a topic of relevance as of now. So you have attended to previous sessions. I think all the aspects of new education policy is covered. I like to start this section with a poll, some activity that will definitely help us in when you proceed with the sessions. I will share a Mentimeter slide. Hope this slide is visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yes, okay. I've shared a link. You can just go to that link. And there is a question here, who will be benefited most by NEP 2020? There are 4 options like students, faculty, institutions, or employers. You can give your response. You can go to that link or you can type menti.com on a browser and use the code. The code is given there in the slide, 78684181. Okay, you can just go to that link, which is already there in the chat box. You can click that link and you can give your response there. Otherwise, you can go to menti.com and you can use the code. The code is visible here, 78684181. Then you can give your response. So it will only 7 seconds more. Now the voting is closed. You can see the trend. I think the slide is visible, no? Is it visible? I'll show you the slide once more. Yeah, this is the trend. So some of you have voted, given your response. So according to the poll, we can see the students are the most benefited group when we implement NEP 2020. Then faculty, then institutions, then employees. Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you for your response. Is it visible? The screen is visible?
Yes, sir, the screen is visible.
Okay, thank you. So we will just go through some introductory slides. I don't know how much aware you are about NAP. So I will just start with the summary of NEP 2020. Everybody knows it. The objective of NEP 2020 is make India an attractive destination for higher education worldwide. Then the policy is based on the pillars of access, equity, quality, affordability, accountability, and will transform India into a vibrant knowledge hub. That is the objective. Then NEP 2020 emphasizes system and institutional improvements to regulation, governance, and promotion of multidisciplinary academies and research in Indian higher education institutions. So that multidisciplinary academics, that is very important. Then goal of the NEP is to increase the gross enrollment ratio. Yeah, from 26.3 to 50% by 2035. That is the goal. Then some key highlights, like more higher education institutions across India to offer their programs in local or Indian languages. That is one of the key highlights of NEP. Then shifting from a rigid higher education curriculum to multidisciplinary undergraduate education. Already we have mentioned that. Then offering student, faculty, and institutional autonomy. Then the curriculum, there is a revamp of the curriculum. Then the pedagogy, assessment, and student support for enhanced student experience. Because when we go to foreign universities, the students have more experiential learning there. So in India, we are lacking in that aspect. And NEP 2020 should include creative assessments, creative curriculum delivery methods, etc. Reaffirming the integrity of faculty and institutional leadership positions through merit appointments and career progression based on teaching, research, and service. Then improved governance of higher education institutions by high qualified independent boards having academic and administrative autonomy. Light but tight regulation by a single regulator for higher education. Then giving access to education to all learners, disadvantaged learners with special needs, through online education and open distance learning. That is also very important because almost 40% of the courses you can take online once if it is implemented in the proper way. Then these are the basic things. And if you look at the students' perspective, how NEP 2020 benefit the students, or what is the change towards high quality liberal education? That is what NEP 2020 aims at. The policy envisages an imaginative and broad-based liberal undergraduate education with rigorous specialization in chosen disciplines and fields. Okay. The NEP 2020 is more student-centric. There is a focus on flexibility, passion, skill enhancement, and employability. Imaginative and flexible curricular structures should be there. When we develop curriculum, that is a very important factor. Creative combinations of disciplines of study. Earlier, when a student joined for a particular course like a BCom or a BSc Mathematics, he will complete the program with all the related subjects of mathematics. But in this case, when we implement NEP, there should be multidisciplinary courses, and the student can choose those courses according to his passion or according to his skills. And in some cases, according to his hobby also. So multiple exit and entry points are allowed so that the student will be benefited, like even after 1 year, if he joins a company for a job, he can join there, and maybe after 1 year or after 2 years, he can come back and continue the studies. All these possibilities are there. Masters and doctor education provide research-based specializations. We have 3 or 4 year undergraduate degree with multiple exit options. Like if it is a 4 year program, it can be a bachelor's of liberal arts, or education in chosen major and minors lead to a honors degree with research work. And there is a 3-year program, which is the usual program which we are running in many of the colleges. Then exit with a 2-year advanced diploma or a 1-year certificate. So that a student who joins for a UG program, he can exit after 1 year with a certificate, or after 2 years with a diploma, or after 3 years with a bachelor's degree. And he can continue for the 4th year where he will get a honors degree. And that will be a degree, honors degree, which will be leading to a research. Then the same way, we have flexible master's degree programs, where 2 years programs for those with a 3-year undergraduate degree and 1 year for those with a 4-year undergraduate degree with honors. And we can have integrated 5-year programs also. So naturally, there is a threat for the institutions, like if these 4-year programs are introduced, then definitely will there be a demand for a master's program? That is a question asked by every academic institution now. Because once the student complete a 4-year honors degree, he can directly join for a PhD program. There is no need of any master's degree there. So that is again a challenge, but it is be beneficial for the students, but at the same time, it's a challenge for the education institution. Then another important fact is the student perspective, vocational education to the mainstream. Earlier, we had BVOC programs, many institutions, but the social status of that BVOC program compared to another regular program is less, comparatively less. So this policy aims to overcome the social status hierarchy associated with vocational education. Vocational education must be an integral part of all education, aims to provide access to vocational education to at least 50% of all learners by 2025. That is the goal. But even to achieve that goal, to meet that goal, definitely, we have to travel a lot. I don't think it will be achieved by 2025. Here, vocational education means you can start some courses and programs according to the local needs. So if your institution is situated in a mango, where a place where we have a lot of mango plantations, we can start some food processing units, and you can add some courses to your regular programs, or even you can start a BVOC program based on the local needs, or in some other cases, you can have a handicrafts village. Maybe your institution is associated with that village. You can start a BVOC program in that way. So BVOC program means the UGC or the NAP 2020 expects that the BVOC program should be aligned with the local needs or aligned with the local skills, so that the students will also gain some economic value when they pass out of the institution. They may be earning some money through these programs. The National Higher Education Qualification Framework to articulate learning outcomes already started, and some the syllabus, the revisions are started, and some patents were already published. The National Skills Qualification Framework aligned with the above to ensure equivalence and mobility. So that also already started. Then we have the choice-based credit system to be revised and improved to allow for flexibility and innovation. Because a student, with the implementation of academic bank of credit, it will be there in the next slide, this will be useful for the student. So according to his choice and his passion, he can go through any of the courses, and he can earn credits, and in 7 years he can earn a degree by accumulating the credits he has earned. Stimulating learning experience offered through effective pedagogical practices. Even the UGC is promoting the institutions so that they can join with some edtech companies, and they can develop a platform for even delivering the courses through online. So then the learning experience of the students will be improved, and experiential learning is one of the areas where every institution can look upon. Students assessed not only on academic aspects, but also on broad capacities and dispositions. So again, with the implementation of outcome-based education, in order to attain the graduate attributes or program outcomes, definitely we should have innovative curriculum delivery as well as innovative assessments. You can have OB-only activities. In addition to those activities which will come to the mark list, we can have OB-only activities where you can measure the student's ability in different aspects. So the NEP is expecting such kind of assessments. Academic, financial, and emotional support available for students to help attain better outcomes. There will be scholarships. I will explain that in another slide. Then open and distance learning expanded. Recently, the UGC has announced that even online degrees and offline degrees are of the same value nowadays. If it is a, if it is approved by UGC, even online degrees are at par with the regular degrees. Internalization of education facilitated, and there will be inter-university center for international education set up within selected Indian universities, so that the students can, even the foreign students, they can also approach these centers, and our students, the domestic students, they can also approach this inter-university center for international education. And in the due course of time, even a student can take some courses from India, some institutions in India, and some of the courses from international institutions. And the academic bank of credits, that is one of the most important concepts of NEP, where the notion of a physical campus or a geographical location to dissolve, giving flexibility to students to study either in a national or international institution. So according to academic bank of credit, a student can join for a course instead of a program. A student may be joining in a college for a particular course, and he can complete the program in 7 years. So during these 7 years, he will be joining from different courses from different institutions, and he will get the degree certificate from that particular institution where he has completed 50% of the courses. So 50% of the courses he can join for any institution, and again, out of these 100% courses, 40% of the courses he can go online. That means he can take online courses, approved online courses, so that he can complete the program in 7 years. That is the concept of academic bank of credit. This is actually an opportunity for an institution as well as a faculty member. But at the same time, there are a lot of challenges, because the students, when they are joining for a course, they will select those faculty members. Maybe instead of institutions, they will select those faculty members whose course delivery, assessment, everything is of high quality. That is very important. So definitely the faculty members, some of the faculty members will be gaining, or great faculty members or great institutions will be gained. They will be gaining through this academic bank of credit concept. So this is a multidisciplinary approach to implement an academic bank of credit. It's already implemented, which will be able to digitally store academic credits earned from various recognized higher education institutions. So when a student joins for a particular course in our institution, the institution also has to register in the academic bank of credit. The student will also register there. So after completing that particular course, the institution has to transfer that credit in the name of that student to the academic bank of credit. So it will act like a bank. And finally, the student can accumulate the credits so that he will get the degree. And the researcher perspective, National Research Foundation will promote a culture of research in Indian education system. This policy has a strong emphasis on catalyzing and energizing research and innovation across the country in all academic disciplines. This is an autonomous body set up through an act of parliament. Annual grant of 20,000 crores, increased progressively over the next decade. So this is the initial grant provided to the National Research Foundation. The foundation will have 4 major divisions to start with: sciences, technology, social sciences, arts and humanities. Funding research in all disciplines through a competitive peer-reviewed based process. That is the objective of National Research Foundation. That is the procedure. And building research capacity at academic institutions across the country, creating beneficial linkages between researchers, government and industry, recognizing outstanding research through special prizes and seminars. The most important aspect of this for the researchers in NEP 2020 is all fresh PhD entrants, irrespective of discipline, to take credit-based courses in teaching or education or pedagogy or writing related to their chosen PhD subject during the doctoral training period. Nowadays, a PhD student will complete the PhD without having any experiences or any credit in teaching or in education or in pedagogy or in writing. Now, this is actually a welcome move by the NEP 2020. And again, you can see PhD students will also have a minimum number of hours of actual teaching experience, gathered through teaching assistantships and other means. Usually, a PhD student, when join in a college for teaching, he may not have any experiences, any prior teaching experience. But this is mandatory in future. So again, this is an opportunity for every institution to start a department of education. So it is better to start a department of education in every institution so that this department can help in implementing new education policy as well as identifying new areas of new and innovative curriculum delivery methods, assessments, etc. And teacher perspective, when we look at the teacher perspective on NEP 2020, energized, engaged, and capable faculty. That is what NEP 2020 aims at. The most important factor for the success of higher education institution is the quality and engagement of its faculty. This policy puts faculty back into the heart of higher education. Okay. Then adequate faculty in every institution, that a teacher-student ratio should be maintained. Then ad hoc contractual or appointments will be stopped. There will be only permanent faculty members in the institutions in future. Faculty recruitment based on academic expertise, teaching capacities, dispositions for public service. This will be counted. Appropriately design permanent employment tenure track, permanent employment track system in all institutions by 2030. That is what the target is set. Continuous professional development plan for all faculty. Faculty recruitment and development, career progression, compensation management to be part of every institution development plan. When we go for accreditation purpose, there should be an institution development plan. So previously, many institutions, they have an institution development plan mainly based on the growth of the institution, the other aspects. But some of the institutions, they have already these faculty development programs, and there is a roadmap for that also. But in future, every institution has to have this type of faculty development plans in the institution development plan. That is a welcome move. Faculty empowered to make curricular choices for their courses, pursue research with academic freedom. There is a lot of freedom for the faculty members to do their research, or according to their passion, or they can choose the curricular choices. That also is possible. Then standalone teacher institutions will be converted into multidisciplinary institutions by 2030, opening 4-year integrated teacher preparation program. Instead of B.Ed colleges, in future we will have integrated teacher education programs. A national mission for mentoring will be established with a large pool of outstanding or senior retired faculty to provide mentorship to university or college teachers. So that's a good news for the senior faculty members, including those who are going to retire now. A national mission for mentoring will be established so that you will find some fruitful engagements after your retirement. Institutions perspective, empowered governance and autonomy, that is a must. This policy sees independent, self-governed higher education institutions with capable and ethical leadership as a driver of education change. NEP will bring together higher education institutions into large multidisciplinary universities, colleges, and higher education institution clusters or knowledge hubs. These are the 3 categories of institutions in future. Multidisciplinary universities will be there. Then colleges. Colleges means autonomous colleges or degree granting colleges. And there are some colleges which will form a cluster, which cannot be which will not become an autonomous colleges in future. They will be forming a cluster, or there will be constituent colleges of universities. The policy states that single stream higher education institutions will be phased out over time. That is again a threat for single stream higher education institutions like B.Ed colleges or nursing colleges. So they have to start some multidisciplinary courses, programs, so that they can grow according to this policy. Graded autonomy based on accreditation will be adopted for colleges, and eventually the aim is to transform them into autonomous degree granting college or a constituent college of a university. So that is the objective. And autonomy, accreditation is very much important, because based on accreditation only, a college will be sanctioned the autonomous status. So if you are not an autonomous college, definitely then you have to be a constituent college of a university. That may be a difficult situation for some of the colleges, because the parent university, or there may be some colleges also, they will decide the policy of the entire institutions. So it's better to become an autonomous degree granting college in the near future. Consolidation of more than 50,000 higher education institutions, 1,000 plus universities, 44,000 colleges are there, and some standalone institutions. So more than 50,000 higher education institutions are there in India. So consolidation of this number of higher education institutions into about 15,000 large, well-resourced, vibrant, multidisciplinary institutions. That is what NEP 2020 aims at. So that means almost 2/3 of the institutions will wipe away, or they should merge together, or there should be clusters, so that the number will be reduced over a period of time. And the institutions, they can look upon merging, some management, they may have more than one or two institutions, so they can merge together and form a big institution. That way, you can grow. So new and existing higher education institutions will evolve into two distinct categories. One is universities with focus on research and teaching. The other one, colleges, autonomous degree granting colleges or constituent colleges, constituent college of a university or clusters or something like that. So these are the two categories of institutions in future. Ensure elimination of external interference, enable engagement of high capacity people with institutional commitment. All institutions free to start and run programs, decide curricula, student capacity and resource requirements, develop internal systems for governance and people management. That is actually an opportunity for an institution looking a progressive institution, like they can start and run any number of programs according to the demand of the society, or they can decide the curriculum, they can decide the student capacity, resource requirement, everything. So complete autonomy will be there. And finally, affiliation to stop. Affiliated colleges will develop into autonomous degree granting colleges. Affiliating universities will develop into vibrant multidisciplinary institutions. Now, the challenges and opportunities for an institution perspective as well as faculty perspective, you can see if you are an arts and science college, definitely attain a high NAAC score, above 3.5. That is one goal or one target you have to fix. So in how many years you can become a plus or A++ institution. Then innovative and new generation programs to start. That is also very important. So once if you get that autonomous status, you can start a number of programs based on the demand. Innovative curriculum delivery and assessments to be introduced, because the quality of the education depends on the innovative curriculum delivery and assessments. Then more focus on research. Student enrollment to increase. That means if you have less than 3,000 students as of now, definitely you have to increase that student enrollment to 3,000 plus. That is what the target fixed by NAAC 2020. Become autonomous in the near future. That is very important. If you are an affiliated college, definitely you have to fix a target to become an autonomous college in future. Then overall quality improvement to be the focus. Only quality institutions will sustain in future. So impact of academic bank of credit to be addressed. So that will be, once if it is implemented in the proper way, definitely this will be a challenge as well as an opportunity, as I already mentioned. Because, suppose a student is joining in your institution for a degree program, like a BA economics program or something like that. Maybe after 1 year, the student may leave the college and he may be joining in some other institution for the remaining courses. So that will be a threat if you are not providing the quality education. That will be a threat for your institution. Otherwise, it is an opportunity for your institution. If you are providing a quality education, definitely you will attract more students. Even as of now, if I'm teaching a particular subject, and if I'm teaching mathematics, in my class I have 60 students, I can accommodate 20% more students in my class for my particular course. So my experience in our college, we have already registered in ABC portal. We had some inquiries from different parts of India for a single courses. So for a single course, some students are inquiring now. So we are admitting those students for those single courses. So after that course, that student will leave. And some of the courses we are offering, we can offer online also. So that is an advantage. So if you have great faculty members, and if you are providing quality education, definitely the academic bank of credit concept will be beneficial for you. Otherwise, you will be losing your students maybe after 1 year or after 2 years. That will be a problem. Even with this problem will be there with the rural colleges which are there in the rural areas. See, for example, some student may be joining there, and maybe after 2 years for the final year, he may be joining a college which is situated in the city or urban area. So that is another possibility, so that the student will get a good placement opportunities. So these are the challenges. At the same time, there are opportunities. And the time period for transformation of colleges as of now, by 2030 become multidisciplinary, and 2035 you should become degree awarding college. But the early adopters will reap their benefits, definitely. And as an institution, or even the faculty members, you have the principals or vice principals or NAAC coordinators are there. The decision makers are also there. So you should plan for some targets. You know, you have to set some targets, and based on that, you have to work or start work today itself. So ranking and ratings very important. You have to target at least A+. Then task force for identifying and improving weak areas. The accreditation perspective also, you can identify, you can have a task force for identifying and improving the weak areas. Which all areas you are weak, or which area you are strong. You can be more strong in those areas. That will be definitely benefiting you. Identifying and starting new and innovative programs, like, as I already mentioned, the Department of Education. If you can start a Department of Education in your institution, definitely it will help you in many ways. Like implementing NEP 2020, that's one aspect. And this department can identify the innovative curriculum delivery methods, assessment methods, many things they can do. And they can start courses, integrated courses, like integrated 4-year B.Ed courses you can start. So in that way, Department of Education can contribute a lot to the existing institutions when we are implementing NEP. Then BVOC programs aligned with the local needs. That will definitely benefit you both in the case of student enrollment as well as the accreditation process. So the accreditation process will be asked with the skill training you are providing to the students, and many of the institutions, they will write like a placement training or a communication skills training. All this will be there. But nowadays there is a paradigm shift in the skill training, even with the colleges which have gone for accreditation recently. Some of the colleges, they have gained points when they implemented the skill training based on the local needs. So that is again a paradigm shift, and according to the new education policy, that is what they are looking at. Then courses related to Indian knowledge systems, that is also very important, because that is one of the area which was not exploited by the education institutions. But here also, as an education institution, we can do a lot. And NEP 2020, as well as in future, these accreditation agencies will definitely give more value to these type of activities. These are some areas, some examples where you can look up. Collaboration with industries and institutions is very important. Even you can start some courses collaborating with industry, because some particular courses, some multidisciplinary courses you can start so that the student will also be benefiting, and they can have some internship programs. They will get some internship through these industries. Brand promotion activities, nowadays, social media is very prominent, and many of the institutions, they are spending a lot of money on the online promotion activities, but some of the institutions are yet to come up with those areas. Quality improvement measures, implementation of OB is very important, because the employability is the major problem with the Indian education system. There was a study in Indian education system by more than 150 global professionals, and the report is just coming out, and it will be published by Columbia University as a book. So according to that study, OB is the only solution for improving employability of the student. So implementation of OB is very important, and I will tell you, implementation of OB in the proper way, that is very important. So when we are implementing OB, only many of the institutions are looking only at getting accreditation points, maybe only looking at the criteria 2 and some questions there. But when we implement outcome-based education, you can focus on every criteria. Even in the criteria 1, there is a question like how you are, how effectively the curriculum delivery is done in your institution. So even you can start with the OB manual. If you prepare an OB manual for an institution, definitely you can highlight all these things there. And in almost all the criteria, you can mention about OB, at least in the qualitative criteria. Then faculty training is very important. Placement activity is very important. So these are the areas we can improve the quality of the system. Then the resource mobilization with the alumni and philanthropists, you can have the resource mobilization programs. Even with my college, we are doing a lot of things with the alumni. We have a strong alumni network, and even I'm the director of MCA program there. Any student who is having some problems with financially, so we can address all these the issues with the alumni support, and alumni is contributing a lot in that, not only the financially, but they are mentoring every student. For our MCA program, we have alumni mentors for each student. Each student have an independent alumni mentor. So in that way, we are involving the alumni in everyday aspects, in everyday, not only for the mentoring purpose, they are delivering lectures, they are arranging internships, they are arranging placements, everything is there. Then strategic plan for 20 years. This is my advice to every institution. You should prepare a strategic plan for next 20 years, because we have in 20 years, a lot of things will change according to the NAP. So what will be your institution by 2025? And what is your plan for 2030? So if you can have a strategic plan for that, definitely you will succeed in the coming years. Okay, and this is my perspective of looking at NEP. You can look at the industry for and the digital disruptions in education. I will just quickly go through some of the slides. I think all of you are aware with these things, the industrial revolutions, first industrial revolution with the steam, water, and etc. Second industrial revolution after 100 years, and the main attraction was electricity. Okay, discovery of electricity and mass production, etc. And again, after 100 years, we have the computer, electronics, and internet, the third industrial revolution. Now we are in the mainly focused on artificial intelligence. The barriers between man and machine is solved. So there are a lot of disruptions happening nowadays. So you can see the first, second, and third industrial revolution, the gap is 100 years, whereas for the fourth industrial revolution, only 50 years. It took only 50 years to reach here. And this is the exponential development happening. You can have the human performance and computer performance. So we are here. And in a couple of years, the computer performance will overtake the human performance. And these are the disruptions happening in the technical side. The acceleration rate, how these things are adopted by the people. Like it took 38 years for radio to reach 50 million users, and only 1 year for Facebook to reach 50 million users. And you can see 19 days for Pokemon Go, 13 days for Arogya Setu app, that is an app developed by Government of India during the pandemic time. And the disruptions in education, actually we are very slow. In the education sector, the changes are happening very slow. Earlier it was autonomy. Earlier only affiliated colleges were there, but autonomy came. Then outcome-based education, there are some changes. The paradigm shift is there from teacher-centric learning to student-centric learning. Then virtual learning happens, and nowadays you can see a lot of online training is available. Then new education policy, and finally academic bank of credit. So lot of disruptions happening now, and definitely the speed is there is a huge acceleration there compared to the previous disruptions. But nowadays you can change a lot of changes. So what we have to do when there is a disruption happening? These are the disruptive innovations. Social media, you can see these are the new media compared to the conventional media. They are having a lot of advantages. These are the disruptions happening in the different areas. In education, you can see Byju's, then Coursera, Udemy, etc. Everywhere the disruptions are happening, and you should be innovative. So if you are not innovative and if you are not having creative ideas, definitely you will be a failure when disruptions are happening. So even you look up the world leaders, nowadays the disruptors, they are successful. Disruptors means I'm saying in the positive sense, like they are having they are implementing some sudden changes or something like that. They are successful now. Now the same way, if you want to become successful when there is disruption happening, you should be a disruptor, innovative disruptor. Then only you will be successful. As a faculty member or as an institution, you should be a disruptor. That is my message to all the faculty members here. So thank you for attending this section for 1 year. And if you have any questions, you can ask.
Thank you, sir. The participants are now requested to post their questions.
So one question, like how NAP 2020 is providing opportunities to the students in building their career. So in NAP 2020, many things are there, like proper implementation of outcome-based education. I already mentioned. So if you properly implement outcome-based education, definitely you will see changes in the students, like their skills, acquiring skills, their employability skills, everything will be changed. And you can see already you have mentioned, you have responded to the Mentimeter question, like the students are benefiting. So many ways the students are benefiting. There are a lot of flexibility there, and the multiple exit entry options are there. So in that way, students are benefiting. What are the areas where the faculty has to develop themselves to suit the current students' needs? Yeah. Definitely, as a faculty, you have to update regularly. That is one of the important things. Like not only the updations in your particular subject, but you should update to yourself in in the outcome-based education or the new concept. Like even with the NAP, and what are the 21st century skills? NAP 2020 have suggested the implementation of 21st century skills like creativity, critical thinking, then problem solving skilling, then ethics. All these things are there. So 21st century skills you have to impart. Then you should be thorough with that, and you should be aware of all these things. Then only you can succeed. Awareness is very important. At the same time, update yourself. Okay, I think we can wind up. Thank you all for this, for coming online for this 1 hour. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for focusing on the student-centric perspectives of NAP 2020. This will definitely help us to enhance our pedagogy to make our students excel in the competitive corporate world. We could also comprehend the importance of vocational education inculcated in mainstream curriculum. Thanks for throwing light on Academic Bank of Credit and National Research Foundation, the perspectives which we can use to develop our research by choosing and teaching credit-based courses. We also understood how all institutions can start and run different programs with innovative curriculum. You have very crisply spoken about the challenges and opportunities of NEP 2020, the understanding of which will highly improve the quality of education. The action plan that you projected will greatly help us to effectively improve our quality measures and plan well in advance for the future. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
The participants are kindly requested to wait for a few minutes for the next session. May we know that the next resource person, Dr. Jayashree Priyadarshini, is present in this session? Dr. Jayashree Priyadarshini, ma'am, are you present in the session? So participants kindly wait for the next resource person. We'll soon start our third session.